What's going on, everybody? It is that time again. The Sooners Illustrated podcast, episode 236 on this Friday, December 26th, 2025. Josh Callaway, Collin Kennedy with you on a post-Christmas show. Hopefully, everybody had a great holiday with their family and everything else. A couple of days to kind of get away from football, and we're back to it today. Collin, hopefully, good holiday for you, sir.
Great one out here in Midland, Texas, out in the tumbleweeds, and I know for you as a father, it was the first Christmas for my two twin nephews. So watching them kind of be the stars of the show has been very cool for me. Hopefully, the daughter had a great experience as well.
No doubt. First one, like you said, as a dad for me. My daughter just turned 9 months old today, so her first Christmas, and last 2 days, lots of places, lots of family that want to see the baby, as anyone could guess, or certainly if you're a parent, and but it was great. It was a great couple of days with family, and it feels good to be back and kind of get a little bit back in the swing of things now as we shift back into kind of football mode here. The portal's coming. The portal is coming. It opens next week. It's going to be a heavy portal show today. We're going to recap off some of the guys who jumped in, some of the decisions that are still hanging out there with regard to the NFL draft that could heavily influence what Oklahoma's going to do in the portal. And then obviously we'll peer ahead a little bit as far as where we think Oklahoma's going to target and what the priority list kind of looks like for Oklahoma when the portal does open next week. So it's a Portal Friday. It's Collin's favorite time of year, portal season. Is upon us. Going to be a heavy part of the show, as you would guess, for the next month or so. And we'll get into a lot of it today on the program. A reminder before we get started, you can subscribe to Sooners Illustrated at oklahoma.247sports.com. Use the promo code SoonersPod60, all one word, gets you 60% off a VIP membership for a year to Sooners Illustrated and the entire 24/7 Sports Network. So take advantage of that promo code. Year is starting to wrap up. We're getting ready to shift into 2026. Portal, like I just said. So jump in and be with us every step of the way through the off-season basketball, spring sports, all that good stuff.
Portal's going to be heavy part of the show. Portal's going to be heavy part of the site, so pretty good time to subscribe, and especially for 60% off. And I will say, too, not only, again, Merry Christmas to you and yours, but if you're looking for a last-second gift, maybe a post-Christmas, hey, sorry, I forgot about you, we can get you a gift subscription for that special someone. So feel free to reach out. It's another kind of cool way to capitalize on Sooners Pod 60.
Yeah, we know that some people did that. I know for a fact that some did gift a Sooners Illustrated subscription to people for their Christmas gift. So if you're one of those people who are tuned in today, welcome aboard. Merry Christmas. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
All right, portal stuff. Here we go. It's that time. I mean, we dabbled a tad on Monday, Tom and I, with Code McKinsey jumping in. So a number of other guys have since – I say jump in. The portal is open until next Friday. So these are all just guys announcing their intentions. Obviously, technically, you can't do anything officially until next week, but you get the idea. We'll obviously look at what Oklahoma's going to do next week and all that good stuff. I wanted to first make sure just some housekeeping. The guys who have announced that they're going to be moving on, a few of these names of note. Obviously, the least surprising of all, Javonte Barnes. We've known that basically for 2-3 months, essentially. Yeah. He announced he's going to be heading in there. Jacob Sexton announced he's going to be heading in there. Caden Helms announced he's going to be heading in there. Those are kind of the big ones, Collin. Just kind of a roundup for you. I mean, anything that jumps out from that group, I feel like those are all fairly predictable. I mean, when the season ended, I think for me, the one maybe would have been Caden Helms. You could have seen a world to come back. I mean, he was really – obviously, Jaren Cannon can't come back. So beyond that, he was kind of the one other guy who contributed from that room somewhat consistently. But he, Sexton, Barnes, all moving on. What sticks out to you from that group and the guys who have jumped out from Oklahoma so far in the early parts of this thing?
Yeah, I think starting with Caden Helms, because the other two a little bit more obvious. He was, in my opinion, if you were going to tag one of these three as the most surprising, as hard as that is to label with this kind of group, that would be Helms for me. I think, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later on in the show whenever we talk about pending portal additions. The tight end room is going to be wide open, and it has been.
It's a restart.
Yeah. But I thought that this season showed you that Oklahoma was interested in getting Caden Helms further involved in this new offense. I thought that Caden Helms especially down the stretch. They found some ways to get him into the involvement of the passing game. They kind of leaned on him as a blocker too, which maybe a little bit surprising.
Yeah,
but I thought it was very cool that, especially off the heels of all those different injuries, Helms still kind of embraced that role.
Sure.
And provided a level of physicality. Even if, if you want to sit here and debate how effective he was as a blocker, I'm not here to do that. I just give Caden Helms a lot of props for fighting back, doing what he had to do to not only return to the field, but also return to the field and become a player that Oklahoma was comfortable leaning on. Because of that, I thought maybe there's a chance that they bring him back, especially with an opportunity to continue to get on the field. But I will say this too, man. Whenever Caden Helms went in, Josh, I immediately thought, look, I wish the best for him. I think everyone in the Oklahoma sphere is going to be pulling for him. And I kind of think it's a savvy move too, because it's crazy to say, of all the positions that you see become available in the portal to varying degree of talent pool, tight end is one in the transfer portal era that it is as coveted as almost any. I mean, it's like quarterback, offensive and defensive line, and you see these tight ends go in and make unreal amounts of money and find incredible opportunities. And if that lies ahead for Caden Helms, I think we're all pulling for him to find that opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think Caden's a good player. I always liked Caden Helms. He was one of those guys who just, beat up, had a lot of injuries, fought back to get on the field. Cool to see him get in the end zone last year. And he made some nice moments this year. Had a touchdown this season as well. He had some nice moments this year. And like you said, he really helped them in the run game. Whenever he came back was when you saw that little surge where it looked like they maybe found a little something in the run game. That was kind of coincided with him coming back and being back into the mix a little bit. So, kind of like Jacob Sexton, same thing for him, like just really beat up all the time. I mean, a guy who had a chance to be a really good player at Oklahoma and did play some good football at Oklahoma. It feels like a really long time ago, but he was in the starting lineup for this year's season opener. Jacob Sexton, I'm talking about. Like that feels like a long time ago, but he was. I mean, this is a guy that was expected to be a big part of this, and he played a lot of football, more than it kind of seems. Honestly, when you kind of think of his career, you think of him being hurt a lot. And I kind of went back whenever he jumped in the portal and was like, well, he played in, I want to say 10 games 2 years ago or something like that, 7 last year. I think he played a lot of football, but he was a little snake bitten as well. So you wish him the best. Obviously, an Oklahoma kid that, was, again, at one point thought of like a centerpiece, an anchor of the future of the Oklahoma offensive line, and just, had to just unlucky going all the way back to his first year in the Cheez-It Bowl where he hurt himself in warmups. Like, it just seemed like from that point on, he had good stretches, but it would just, again, snake bitten. Injuries always kind of came back around for him, which was just too bad.
Sexton for me is so interesting because I think that you talked about not only has he played a lot, he also played multiple positions too, which increases the competitive floor. I mean, he sacrificed a lot to a degree to play left and right tackle at certain points in his career, played at guard as well. I mean, what was it, last year in 2024, he was the starting left guard. And then we forget, to your point, Josh, he was listed as the co-starter at left tackle with Michael Fasusi and then got hurt 6 plays into the season opener, if I remember correctly, maybe 5. I mean, he's just had a lot break the wrong direction, but I think that there's clear ability there. And I think of the trio, I am very fascinated to see what the market, for lack of a better term, looks like for him. Because again, if there is an offensive lineman even like partially worth a damn, to be honest with you, like they're going to get an opportunity.
Sure.
His ability to play both tackle spots and guard, I think he's going to have to ask himself, am I willing to play guard? And if he is, I think a lot of people are come calling. I mean, Hegman, like Oklahoma State should pick up the phone whenever the portal window opens. 100%. And that's just the where I think the starting baseline could be. I mean, I could see a number of big time programs reaching out to him. And then quickly on Javante Barnes, I don't know if you had anything you really want to talk about with him. Just I hope it works out for him. I really hope that whatever the next chapter holds, he can make the most of it, because it was kind of a funky end to honestly what I think was a relatively productive career for him at Oklahoma.
Sure. No, I think so. I mean, look, Javante Barnes I thought was always a really just solid player at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Never, got to like that star running back level by any means, but he was always, a good player. And it was a great interview with us. He represented the program well. Like, he's been around a long time. Anytime these guys have been around for 4 years, and that's the case for all of these dudes, they've been around a long time. They get in the portal, they want to finish elsewhere. Like, you wish them the best wherever they land. Like, and I think most fans look at it that way too. Like, I know there's a bit of an animosity with portal, and I get it, especially when it's like a guy who comes in and plays 1 year as a freshman, doesn't really play and leaves or something. I get that. But these dudes, the group we're talking about, have all been here several years, played a lot of football at OU, been banged up, battled through, did Schmitty seasons. They've been around, So wish Barnes the best. And look, elephant in the room, a lot of OU running backs have transferred out and done pretty well for themselves at other places. I could totally see Barnes being one of those guys. I don't know where he'll go. I would think that he has a shot at a lower end power conference team.
Absolutely.
I feel like Marcus Major ending up at Minnesota, like something like that. And he probably could be a good football player, wherever he winds up. I'm rooting for Javonte for sure, So
if I were in his camp, I'd be saying, hey, man, programs are willing to pay running backs at this level because they know that they're getting these players at that position in their prime. And then once the tread on the tires catches up to them in the NFL, you see those career spans shorten. So if I'm Javonte Barnes, knowing not only my ability to kind of go 3-4 yards in a cloud of dust, maybe not a whole lot from like a top end speed, break the top off the defense or anything like that, but not only an ability to run downhill, but his ability as a blocker, pass protector, I think he can go somewhere, make a lot of money, play a lot, and kind of, even if the NFL isn't in the cards for him, have a really good end to his career. And I think certainly it's probably at a pretty solid place too. So I think that Javonte is going to certainly land on his feet because while he may not have like an incredibly high ceiling as a running back, his floor is what everyone's kind of looking for in college football. So I think it'll work out for him.
No doubt. So we'll see. Now, so we'll get into the kind of priorities in the portal Oklahoma's going to add. These are all positions that could influence that conversation a little bit. And obviously, we're still in the early stages here. The portal hasn't even technically opened. More Oklahoma names will be getting in there, moving on. Obviously, stay plugged in over Sooners Illustrated whenever we get word of these guys getting in or announcing their intentions. We'll let you know over at Sooners Illustrated. We'll continue to recap it on the show here as we go along. But those have been kind of some of the early names of note. We'll get into the portal, obviously, more in a minute, but I want to make sure, because this influences the conversation, there's still some big NFL decisions hanging out there for Oklahoma right now. They have to kind of sift through. The biggest one, it's kind of, I said elephant in the room earlier, the big one right now with Oklahoma, just the future of this program, and really the immediate future moving into next year, is John Mateer in the NFL. Look, this continues to be a thing, and I don't want to, we have to choose our words carefully because we're not here to, Collin and I, here to tell you like he's definitely going to the NFL or something because we don't know that, obviously. But it's something that it's on the table, I guess is the best way I can put it. This is something that is being thought about, right? I mean, John's at least mulling, right? And so I don't know. You can get into that aspect as far as what you're hearing, the likelihood. I mean, if I had to pick one way or the other, I would lean probably that he's back, but I don't know for sure. And I don't know where that leaves OU at quarterback if he were to move on. You can broach that subject too, but this is something that is very real. I mean, this is something hanging out there for Oklahoma right now. They have to figure out what they're doing at quarterback. I would, again, anticipate it's going to be John Mateer, but there is a world where with a thin and weak draft class that he could jump in, he probably would get drafted. I know a lot of fans might roll their eyes and say like, man, he didn't have a great year. And I totally get that. I'm kind of with you. But the reality is with where this draft class is, it's not very deep. He probably goes third round. I mean, he would be drafted relatively high compared to the season he had. This is an interesting wrinkle to Oklahoma's offseason right now. That is a real storyline with John in the NFL.
Yeah, let's just start here because you know what I have heard or have picked up on behind the scenes, and this has been something for me that I've been tracking now for the last couple of weeks. Because I would say that while Oklahoma's season wound down, the people that I have talked to in the NFL draft community and in certain areas of the country started to alert me of some noise behind the scenes that indicated, hey, man, like, no matter how you feel about this, John Mateer in the NFL could become more of a dynamic to track by season's end than maybe a lot of people are anticipating. And as I continue to dig on it further, it really is one of those things where, for me at least, as I gather information and I try to like formulate my own perception of the situation, I get it. Like I get it is the best way I can put it. And why I say that is, John coming into this year and then at the start of the season, which I think is important to consider, when he was playing as well as he was between the Michigan game, the Auburn game, and we just forget that he broke his thumb and completed however many passes in the fourth quarter and led them on a game-winning drive, basically.
Right.
The buzz around his name at that time was, I mean, it was hard to calculate. Like, it was hard to quantify. He had first-round buzz. I mean, people that I respect in the NFL draft community thought, hey, man, second or third round for him is kind of like worst case scenario at this point because everyone in the NFL draft community was in. And then he gets hurt. And I think that's where you really have to start like breaking down the layers to the situation. Because John plays very well, not without flaws, certainly not without flaws. But I think that the NFL draft sphere had a greater understanding or appreciation of what John was going through, not only with the thumb, but with the knee. And I think that a lot of people whose opinions matter have factored that into the evaluation.
Sure.
And not only is this upcoming quarterback draft class going to be, I mean, very weak, and especially weaker than what is expected to be a pretty strong group next year in the 27 draft cycle.
Exactly. Yeah.
That natural elevation from like a talent pool perspective is then built upon because of two things. Number one, we know the quarterback natural elevation in and of itself in the NFL. I mean, you see guys get drafted in the first round who just aren't first round quarterbacks because some of these franchises just go, well, we got to get like an extra year on this guy if we're going to figure out whether or not he's our quarterback. And everyone on top of that is just clamoring for any type of capable arm at that position. And so this all kind of like helps build John up. And then everyone's factoring in the injuries and again, some of the promising stuff that he put together on tape. And I think that all of this is not only out there in the NFL draft space, I think it is around John as well. I think this is stuff that maybe he or people around him are very aware of. I think there are ongoing discussions with the next level. We'll see what kind of like the last word is, that final grade is going to be. But I don't know, Josh. I think that's where you start. It's like, and this is the other thing I would quickly add here too. Factor in that if you were to come back, and we'll talk about this further. The other thing that I think is very real is like, what happens if he gets hurt again?
Yeah, that's.
And so we'll dive into like the pros of coming back, but I think that's kind of the argument to present of why this is a thing. So
right. No, I mean, it feels like right now it's Fernando Mendoza, it's Dante Moore, it's probably Ty Simpson, and then John Mateer. I mean, after that, he's kind of right there in that next. After that first three, I would think that Mendoza and Moore are probably going to go really high, probably in the first few picks.
Yes,
right. Ty Simpson probably has a chance to get into the first round. I would think the back end of it. After that, I mean, we'll see how it all shakes out. There are other guys. You have combine, you have interview, like stuff happens. But I would think that John has got a chance to be on day 2 after that first round. And that is very tempting considering that the class next year is deeper. And, even if you have a better year, you could still wind up in around the same area because the class is deeper. And so, like I said before, if you made me pick one or another, I would lean that John Mateer is the quarterback at Oklahoma next year. But this feels like a real thing. Like this could happen. And the reality for Oklahoma is I don't really know what they do if he does. I mean, you have Michael Hawkins. I don't know if that's a realistic option. Obviously, Bo Bentley is going to be a freshman. I don't know if that's a realistic option. Or you can dip into the portal, but I don't know who they can get in the portal that would make sense in a bridge to Bo Bentley or if that's the way it would go. Like I don't know where that leaves Oklahoma. I would suggest this because I know there's definitely a contingent of you fans that say go ahead. I know for a fact because I've heard them. I know that they exist.
Yeah,
I would advise against that. I think it's much more likely that Oklahoma would downgrade a quarterback than upgrade if John leaves. Much more likely. So be careful what you wish for there. It's much better for Oklahoma if Mateer is back under center, in my opinion. That could be wrong. He could move on, and then they have someone else, and it's awesome. And I'll admit, like, I thought this was a bad, but that's how I feel about that. So,
we'll I think that John should come back because my thing is if you return all of those promising young pieces on that offense that were around you, guys like Fasusi and Foje and EPL, they're gonna get a year more experience,
better skill talent in theory,
better skill talent, more continuity under Ben Arbuckle. I mean, again, I mentioned it after the last game, like Arbuckle and Mateer learned together. They would now have more experience together operating in the SEC, knowing what they like and don't like, and having that group around them. The defense is going to be strong. And I think for John, it's like you could go and you could, in theory, get picked in the same range you might be picked next year. But if you have a good season, you might be back in the first round conversation, even with a stronger talent pool, because again, the way the quarterback position is coveted. And the other thing for me is like, are you going just to go, or are you going because you're ready? Right? I think that's where the debate is John ready? Now, Josh, this is the other important conversation to have. I think he should come back because I think that if John leaves, the assumption that Oklahoma is just going to be fine if he's gone, that is just a wildly misplaced way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because this is what I told you too the other day. Quarterback play in the entire sport is down. We all know that, right? Like quarterback play in general has dropped off. So it's not only finding these guys, but it's like if John were to leave, I think there's this assumption by some fans that they would just be able to go and find a guy. A lot of these guys that are getting ready to go in the portal already know where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I'm just also not convinced that most of them are better than John Mateer, too. Like, I get that Mateer's not the footwork and the decisions. I get it. He played most of it with a broken hand, and he still played really good football at times, and he has the familiar with Arbuckle. I feel like that's built it like year two Mateer at Oklahoma with Arbuckle or brand new, just stepped in DJ Lagway. Like, what would you actually prefer to have? And Lagway is one of the top guys in the portal. Like, I think I would maybe lean having Mateer back for year two, and like that's one example. And the vast majority of quarterbacks in the portal are not as good or as talented as DJ Lagway. And that's one example that I can throw out there. I don't know.
And it's like, if you're sitting at home, like, well, and I'm just throwing out a hypothetical name. In no way am I trying to like link a player. It's like, well, I think like Byron Brown.
Sure.
Or something. Well, I think we all know the deal there.
Yeah.
Like,
it's going over.
These quarterbacks, if you like a certain quarterback, maybe we're all like, yeah, that's a really good football player. But a lot of these guys already have their stuff lined up. And so this idea that like Oklahoma is just going to backdoor its way into a premier signal caller in the portal that's already laid the groundwork through its agents.
And you need other stuff on offense. You basically redo all your skill talent or not redo, but add to all those rooms. So like,
I mean, like a Brennan Sorsby, that's another one where, I think we all like know the deal. Also, like, and I'm not trying to, throw stuff around, but it's like, this is another thing I wrote the other day. You also have to factor in the market where it's like, are you willing to pay someone that maybe is a comparable player more money than John is making? Because
it would take more than what John's making. Yeah.
You can go out there and find some of the numbers that are being thrown around right now for quarterbacks that I would view as relatively comparable players. And there might be a world where you're paying a higher dollar for a quarterback who is either as good or,
Sure.
So it's a very interesting dynamic going on now. And it's a lot on the line.
When do you have to announce again? It's like January something.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Roughly the middle of January when you have to declare by, somewhere in that ballpark, middle of January zone. The exact date I can look it up in a minute, but so we'll know. I mean, this will be something we're going to continue to follow. I don't really think there's much of a world where John would be, considering a portal himself. You never rule anything out in modern college football. I think it's very the vast more likely is either he's back at OU or he's in the NFL. And we'll see, what he decides to do. And he may pick one or another. I would lean he's back at OU, but it is a conversation. And for Oklahoma's sake, and they definitely want him back. And that's the way you roll. If it's up to OU, that's the way you go. So
I believe the deadline is, they say mid-January, usually around January 15th.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's a quick Google search for you.
Sounds about right. So we'll continue to monitor that. That's obviously a huge storyline. There are more NFL decisions that are also big storylines. In particular, Isaiah Sategna and Kip Lewis. I wanted to bring these guys up again because this all influences the portal conversation. Before we get into that aspect of it, Collin, these are both guys that are kind of feel like they're in the exact same boat in that they can be back. Oklahoma wants them back. Obviously, why wouldn't you? It's going to take money to do it. But both these guys can go to the NFL, and they will be drafted, and they could start their careers this year if they want, their pro careers if they want. But they also have another year to improve their stock, make more money. Obviously at OU, these are huge decisions for Oklahoma. Sategna was obviously by leaps and bounds their best receiver this year. He was the only guy really that made plays all year. We saw Burks have his moments. Obviously, Burks was really good in the playoff game. But other than that, it was really just Sategna. And then Kip Lewis, obviously, is a really, really good player that we've watched for years and was awesome in November. And then B, he's the only guy in the linebacker room who's coming back. Kobe hit the portal. Heineke still technically could get that year. Doesn't sound great, but we'll see. Kendall Daniels is gone. So, from that perspective, it also would be massive. He's just good anyway, but then also, you don't have any returning production on the table right now. If he were to leave, these are huge decisions, Collin. Where do you kind of land with them in terms of just kind of what you're thinking about them? And obviously, again, this heavily influences the portal because I think they're going to need both these positions anyway. But man, I mean, it becomes massive needs if either one of these dudes leave, especially Kip at linebacker. But these are huge decisions that are hanging out there for Oklahoma right now in terms of next season.
Let's start with Kip because I'm with you. I think it is between the two. I think there's an argument to make that it's probably the more consequential because I think that Isaiah is a great player. Wide receivers, though, you can typically find and even somewhat replace in the aggregate.
Sure.
Linebackers, especially at a place like Oklahoma, and especially at a place like Oklahoma where the amount of turnover is hitting at that position. That one is for me where my eyes go. So I'm going to kick it to you real quick. What is your current perception of Kip? Because I think it is very fluid, honestly. Maybe a little bit more fluid than I think we were expecting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I have not really at any point had a great feel for Kip. I will say this. It doesn't seem like his NFL draft stock is as good as you would think for as good of a player as he is. He is small. He is undersized. We've known that his whole career. Obviously, he's gotten a lot bigger and put on weight than when he first got to OU, like anyone would. But he is still relatively undersized for like an NFL linebacker. And I don't know how well he will test at a combine. That's a legitimately, I don't know. I'm not saying he would test poorly. I just don't know. So from that perspective, it makes you think like maybe there is a war where he would come back. It always seemed down the stretch like this is probably it. But, hearing that, like maybe there isn't an NFL, because you look at mock drafts and stuff, he's not a name that is high on any of these things. And so from that perspective,
surprising.
Why wouldn't you come back and play another year and make some money? But at the same time, it's like, how much is he going to really be able to improve the stock? So I don't know. I don't know where I'm at with Kip, honestly. Sategna, it seems like there's definitely I originally thought NFL no-brainer for him because of the year he had, but it has seemed like as time's gone on, there's been a little more of like a push where OU wants to keep him. Like they've made it a priority of they're willing to pony up, for lack of a better word, to try and keep Sategna. So I'm kind of feeling like there's been some positive momentum there. Kip, I just don't know.
Yeah, I think for Kip, it really will come down to, okay, what is the final draft grade? And is Oklahoma willing and able to, in theory, match the value of that draft slot or territory?
Sure.
Because if you can go back to a place like Oklahoma and be the guy and make just as much, if not more money, to play in a defense that you're not only very familiar with, but you would be the leader of, you would be the shot caller on the field. I feel like, to your point, how do you improve the draft stock? I mean, Kip Lewis would get one more season of being truly in the spotlight. And I think what Kip would have to ask himself is exactly what you're talking about. If my name isn't coming up maybe as much as I anticipated, well, does another year give me the opportunity to have my name simply just come up more often? Because I'm going to be honest with you. I am very surprised that certain NFL draft analysts put out these lists or whatever, and Kip sometimes isn't even on it. Now, draft analysts and the actual draft community can still have greatly varying opinions. And I think we've learned that over the last several years, the way that the draft has gone, and maybe Kip is a part of that. But I think that, again, he is undersized. He would, you talked about the testing. He would have to prove that he is what he shows at times on tape, which is a somewhat undersized linebacker who, since his high school days to now, is one of the best at covering ground in the blink of an eye in the country at his position. And I'll say this as well, and I'm kicking myself for it because I'm a little bit of a draft nerd. I just haven't had the time to really sit down and analyze the current projected linebacker draft pool and where Kip would fit into that, because I think that's something that's very real as well. The cyclical nature of the draft. Maybe it does make sense for Kip to either go or to stay, and maybe next year's class of linebackers is considered weaker than this year's. I don't know the answers to that yet. And again, I'm kicking myself for not knowing that yet. I just haven't had the time. But I think those are all things for Kip to work through. And I think there's a very real, justifiable reality for both sides. But he, for me, as time goes on, I talk myself more into him being someone who maybe makes sense to come back. And then let's go to Isaiah. I want to kick this to you as well, because you've been tracking this one behind the scenes too. Yeah. And it sounds like some of the maybe building conviction is the wrong way to phrase it, but it sounds like some of the things you've been picking up on recently is led you to believe there is a justified or a very real shot for OU to keep this guy around.
Sure. It just, it seemed like just talking to people that OU is being very aggressive with Sategna. That's a sentiment that I've gotten. And similar to last year with Deion Burks, where they found a way to get it together, and they said, this is going to be our guy. Remember, obviously last year, the entire receiver room basically moved on, but they found a way to get it done and to keep Deion Burks. I think they're basically doing that this time around with Sategna, which, again, I kind of assumed all along, he's going to go. He had a great year. He's eligible. He's probably had as good of a year as you could really hope for. And but if the money is there, I mean, it could make sense for him to come back and play another year at OU if, he likes the direction of it. And look, they're going to need to add receivers either way. But I think right now, the way they kind of looked at it, Giovanni Gibson, Jermichael Carter, these are all dudes who, let's call it like it is, cheap right now. They're going to be cheap because they didn't really do much this year, but there's a lot of a clear upside there. You pair that with Sategna, and then you go portal hopping to maybe get another legitimate guy in that room. All of a sudden, your receiver room's not bad. They kind of even though it wasn't an amazing year for that position, it kind of feels like, generally speaking, Oklahoma does not hate where they are with that room. It's not like tight end or even running back to an extent where it's there's a lot of work. I don't think that OU sees it that way with receiver. They kind of look at what they have if they can retain Sategna, and that's what they're being aggressive to do so, to go with Carter, with Gibson, with the young guys. I'm not here to suggest they're not going to still add in the portal. They probably will, but I don't think it's like whoa, we need a bunch of receivers. Like, I really don't think OU looks at it that way, and that's why they're kind of being the sentiment I've gotten very aggressive in keeping Sategna around to be one of the big guns with it, to go with Giovanni, with Jermichael, and then maybe a portal guy they can throw in there.
You can correct me if I'm off base, and this is another thing we'll talk about more here later in the show, but it feels like Oklahoma's dream scenario at receiver would be to retain Isaiah Sategna, keep all those other bodies around, and build with them because of some of the promise that they showed in the back end. And then if you're able to keep Sategna around, go and get like one more alpha dog kind of guy at receiver and funnel the offense in the passing game through those two, whoever they would be, whether it's Isaiah Sategna and someone that they add in the portal, or even Sategna and kind of the collective that's already in house.
Yeah.
This is another thing for me, and you tell me if I'm off base here. If I'm Isaiah, I would be saying, all right, I'm going to delay my decision as long as humanly possible. These are two things.
Yeah.
I need to know, number one, is John Mateer back? I think that if you're Isaiah Sategna, like, that has to play a primary role in your decision.
Sure.
And number two, who else is going to be in that receiver room? Because coming back and making money and being part of this offense again, that's all great in theory. But where is your draft stock? And then how much do you trust that, especially if OU goes out and gets another big-time threat at receiver, how much do you trust that you're still going to be a focal point of this offense? Because it is not an exaggeration. Statistically, he was putting up numbers similar to someone like a CD Lamb, which is crazy to say. But like, he is – he was matching –
wasn't any good, really. I mean, mostly.
He was matching production is the best way to put it. Like, talent and the ability, the production was there.
Right.
Is the production going to be there next year, especially whether or not John Mateer is back? And what does that new look receiver room mean for you? That's what I would be curious about in Sategna's case.
Yeah, no doubt. It's going to be really interesting. And you obviously, from Oklahoma's perspective, they really like what he gives them in the return game. Like, there's a clear emphasis. I think if you're Sategna, if OU is stepping up and giving you an NIL offer that, is one worthy of you putting off the NFL for a year, I think that's a clear kind of commitment that, like, you're going to be a big part of the offense next year.
Yeah.
Again, and obviously we saw what he did this year. He had a great season, and it's interesting. It's huge because I still think receiver is going to be a need either way. But I guess, again, the thing that comes back is I think Oklahoma feels kind of okay with where they are at that position, even though maybe the general thought is like they need more game change at receiver. And we've said as much on this show, but I don't think OU necessarily sees it that way. Now, again, I think they're going to add one or two, but retaining seems to be a little more the idea at that spot. We'll see. Big decision there for Sategna, obviously.
Do you want to project, or do you want to put your personal label? Like, here, let's do this. If it were me, I would say what I think is going to happen is it's tough.
It's tough.
I think that Kip is going to go, and I kind of now lean towards Isaiah potentially staying. What I think should happen is I think Kip should come back, and I think Isaiah should probably explore draft waters. But those are my kind of two takes.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. You could probably talk me into a bitch about anything. I would say a slight lean to that they're both back, but I don't know, because I would love to see both back. I think at the end of the day, kind of like what we saw last year with Burks, and then, to an extent, R. Mason, and then, to an extent, Kip last year. I think Oklahoma is just like, they know they need these guys. And so they're going to be very aggressive in retaining them, and they're going to give them as good offers as they can. And if they don't take it, especially in Kip's case, like they just, his mind was kind of made up, sort of a thing. Because again, I just don't know. The NFL's draft stock doesn't seem to be great for Kip. And so it just kind of seems like, why wouldn't he come play another year, make some money, maybe improve it? I don't know. We'll see. Big decisions, though, obviously. Huge guys on both sides. And we'll continue to track both of those, obviously, over the next couple of weeks. as they get to figure out if they're going to be back in Oklahoma next year. You know, I thought last year that Oklahoma did a surprisingly good job retaining guys after what last year was, where they were 6-7 and it sucked and they lost to Navy in the bowl game. They did a pretty good job keeping dudes around. And so this year you had a playoff run. You know, it's like, I'm not going to count them out and being able to do it because they surprised me last year with how well they retained some guys. And so, you know, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They can maybe do it again and keep some of these big guys.
I also think it's very important to quickly mention too. This is also where Jim Nagy makes his money, right? Like,
yeah,
I think Jim Nagy has told you repeatedly in the public sphere, his priority is always going to be retaining players. And number two, this is the big one for me, is Jim Nagy has more of an ability, arguably, than most general managers in the entire sport of college football.
Sure.
To have the inside track and the inside pulse of the NFL. And I think his ability to be honest and upfront and have, for lack of a better term, sourced intel on what people are saying in the NFL draft landscape and presenting it to these guys and saying, this is not my opinion. This is what I am being told by the people who will choose whether or not to draft you. That's a massive feather in the cap for Oklahoma. And it's why you brought him in. This is kind of the moment in time where he really kind of, earns his stripes, for lack of a better term.
No doubt. And all that's a backdrop to obviously the portal opening. Like I said, I think linebacker, receiver are probably going to both be needs anyway, but they move up the pecking order quite a bit if you lose those two guys if they decide to both jump to the NFL. Just kind of identifying Oklahoma's priorities now. Obviously, it opens next week. We're going to have a lot of time to talk about specific names, OU targets, and who they have in on visits and all that. That's all coming very, very soon. And again, that's why you subscribe to Students Illustrated as well. But we'll be talking about it on the show weekly, obviously, for the next several weeks. But Collin, for you, I guess when you talk about Oklahoma's board in terms of just clearly they're going to need to address this. They're going to be aggressive at this spot. Where do your eyes go first when you kind of stack up okay, priority number one for Oklahoma is to get this, and then kind of, I guess, building it out from there for you as far as, again, where Jim Nagy and this front office are clearly going to look to address in this cycle to add to the team through the portal for next year.
Let's break it up one side of the ball to the other, and let's start that by addressing the most obvious. It's tight end.
Tight end. Yeah, 100% they're adding a tight end. Multiple, probably.
It's probably the most boring conversation to have, and it's the most obvious conversation to have. They have got to get better at tight end. They have got to get better at tight end in a hurry, and they have got to get better at tight end through, in my opinion, multiple bodies and multiple roles. I think they've got to get a tight end who can be a legitimate receiving threat and a tight end who can command the defense's attention, because I think even as productive as Jaren Kanak was at points in the season, I'm not sure that defenses were all that threatened by him as a former linebacker. I think defenses were willing to let someone like Jaren Kanak beat them. And I think that kind of dynamic within your offense has to change, because not only can a tight end be a legitimate safety blanket for your quarterback in your offense, you can do a lot through a legitimate receiving threat at tight end. You can then free up other guys through a strong presence at tight end. And then they got to find somebody who can block. Like, they have made it very abundantly clear that even if they're not going to throw the ball to the tight end, they want to run the ball behind their guys. They want to run the ball behind these tight ends. They want to go 12s. They want to put guys in position to be at the point of attack. And you got to have a guy that can embrace that.
Yeah.
And so it's tight end right off the top, Josh. And I'm curious to see what else you have to add on it. But again, it's just the most glaringly obvious thing.
Sure. No, I mean, it's a reboot at tight end. And look, I think that obviously we like the guys they signed that are coming in. Tyler Ruxer, Ryder Mix, so Trene Washington, young guy kind of hanging around in that room as well. But they're going to add in the portal here at tight end. It's no brainer. Obviously, Jaren Kanak's career is done. We talked about Caden Helms earlier. I think of the guys that they added last year, I would say probably Carson Kent maybe has a chance to be back and have a role on this team next year in some capacity. I don't know what. I mean, I think clearly he would be the one that you could maybe see. factoring in, not as like a tight end one by any means, but like being a guy in the mix there. They're going to need to add a couple of guys, probably a couple, and definitely, like you said, a legitimate receiving threat. You saw that all year with other teams and what Alabama was doing, what LSU, like you go down these top SC teams, they all have a tight end that can make plays. They all do. Yeah. And Oklahoma was missing that this year. And Jerry Kenny had a solid year. He was third team all SEC. Like he had a solid year, all things considered. But like I said, you loop in the blocking aspect, and yeah, it's a no doubt need. And you could argue it's the number one need in the portal for Oklahoma in this upcoming cycle. And obviously, look, there's a lot of like thought with like the staffing stuff. I don't know what's going to happen with Joe John Finley. I know there's a lot of thought there. Like maybe there's a change coming there. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know for sure. We thought last year it looked like that was probably definitely going to happen, and it didn't. Would it surprise me? I guess I wouldn't be shocked either way there if it's a change or not. But that's another wrinkle to it is if they do make a change, they hire someone new from wherever. Does he bring a tight end with him? You know, I mean, that's on the table, right? So I'm with you. Tight end is an obvious need. There's no doubt that they're going to add at least one, and I would say probably a couple.
All right, so sticking with the offense, give me the position group, whether it's receiver, running back, offensive line. We're going to take quarterback and tight end off the table. Give me the position group that jumps out at you from a portal perspective. Where do you feel like they need to kind of go after, be aggressive, maybe?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I definitely put offensive line the lowest. I mean, I think you can get. Yeah, I think you probably add a body or two, but you have 4 starters coming back. Like, I think you're in pretty good shape on the offensive line, all things considered. 3 freshmen. Like, again, you probably add a couple of guys for depth, but I don't think you're desperate. You're not in dire need there by any means. Running back, receiver is a conversation as far as which one's more important. Because I definitely think they need another legit threat at receiver. Yeah. Running back is interesting because, you know, they just did this. They took a huge swing and it didn't work at all, right? Jay Knott was a massive bust. It didn't work, right? We can say that completely fairly. The season is over. He didn't have a role all year. But I do think that you kind of need to take another swing, honestly, at running back. I would maybe even put running back ahead of receiver for, you know, just taking that because they just need a dude. They haven't had a dude like a legit. And I really like Xavier Robinson a lot. He's been beat up. Torrey Blaylock was just a freshman this year. A lot of upside there. You have Jonathan Hatton coming in, who we both think could definitely be an instant impact guy for you. But, yeah, I mean, basically what they did with Jay Knott, try again. And I know that's scary because it just blew up in your face. But I would be tempted to try that again. Because, I mean, think about how different this team and offense could have been this year if Jay Knott was what he was supposed to be. I mean, that would have been huge. So you could talk me either way, running back or receiver, but I think they're both needs. But, yeah, go identify. If there is that guy out there, I don't know if that guy's out there, but if there's a running back who clearly comes in as your featured guy, I think that should be very important to go try and find.
I think offensive line, you're looking for bodies, to be honest.
I think another guard, right? I mean, if Fabecchi's leaving, like, is that going to be Ozida, or do you think you need a portal? That's something that they have to decide.
Well, right? And what happens if Ozida goes in the portal? Not saying that he will, possible. But that's what I think for me with the offensive line is like, how many bodies do they lose?
Also, like, who's the backup center next year?
Yeah, like, I think that's the thing with the offensive line is you're more so there backfilling the promising group you've already got coming up, right? And so you're probably looking for a starter there. I think that the running back receiver conversation is really interesting to have. I think we're both big believers in Xavier Robinson. I think that guy kind of showed you, like, against Tennessee, maybe when he ran for 100 yards. And I think this is the quiet part that I'm just going to go ahead and say out loud. Xavier Robinson is a guy that maybe is the alpha that Oklahoma needs if they give him the dang ball more.
Yeah, for sure.
And then when he got the ball, he got hurt, and it just, it stunk. And Torrey,
well, his whole year, I mean, he was hurt in fall camp. Remember, it got him off to a slow start, and it's just I guess it's not his fault. But I guess I'm a little, even though I really like Xavier Robinson a lot, I'm scared to rely on him too much because he's just been beat up. He's been beat up. He's one of those guys where it's like, I love the player, but he's been hurt kind of a lot, and so it just scares me to kind of put a lot of eggs in that basket.
And so, no matter how you feel about the running backs, I think there are going to be a lot of people out there that go, I'm all in on Xavier Robinson, or I know there's a Torrey Blaylock fan base contingent that like is all in on him, and I'm not going to blame anybody for any of that.
Yeah.
But I think Oklahoma's absolutely adding another running back this offseason.
I mean, this year showed you need more. I mean, this year showed you they were in just a pickle at the end of this year. They had no healthy running backs except for Jaden.
Think back to those years that they had guys like Kennedy Brooks and Trey Sermon and all these cats that were all in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
And when one guy went down, like another stepped up, and they all kind of emerged to be these guys. And that dynamic is not there right now, at least right now. I think they're absolutely going to go try and find a guy that can be an impact type of player, running back. But I think what caliber you're going to get, because these backs are going to know who Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock are, that's a debate for me. My eyes kind of go to receiver. I feel like part of Isaiah Sategna's run this year was the entire country going, whoa, like, OU's got a dude. Like, we knew this player was a good player, but man, and if he does come back, look what happened at the end of the year. Isaiah Sategna has 2 catches for 17 yards and a touchdown. And if you think about it, his lone touchdown in the playoff game was in the end zone, where I would assume the defense was like, the smaller receiver that's a speed threat is not going to get the ball here. You know what I mean? Like, it was a situational play. These teams, if Sategna comes back, are going to take away the one receiver at times who was able to blow the game open for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a dangerous spot to be in, man, especially if you're bringing Mateer back, and really, like, if he's not there. So I think running back, you're going to add a body, and you've got the guys there, and I'm curious to see like how they feed off of those two. But I look at receiver because Sategna's not an unknown commodity from a player standpoint, but a future standpoint. And then if he does come back, even if he is theoretically your number one, defenses started to pick up on him and they tried to take him away. Do you have, with absolute certainty, the guy that can step up and be a number one type, especially now that Deion Burton's gone?
Yeah, no, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
With receiver too, well, the thing too, and a lot of fans will point to this as well, is how much of that can be addressed with just the guys you have on the team that you have not seen yet. These young guys, we both think the world of Zion Kearney, didn't have a role at all this year. Elijah Thomas, could he have a role? Jaden Petit, even coming in as a true freshman. People talk about what he is, like an SEC body and all that. Like they have dudes on the roster, theoretically, Manny Choice, like that guy we just haven't seen yet. Manny Choice is one of those guys. Ivan Carry-On, like those are big body dudes who can play in the SEC from a physicality standpoint, but can they actually get on the field and have a role? Those are questions. Running back too, we didn't mention before. I don't know what's going on with Taylor Tatum. I think we all kind of assume that he's not going to be around, but I don't know. If he is, this is a guy who was number one running back in his class at one point in time. That's another name that is just completely kind of forgotten, just in the wind. Didn't have a role at all this year, obviously. I think we all just kind of assume that he'll be leaving Oklahoma, but obviously at this point he hasn't. And so you at least have to just due diligence, throw that name out there as like, hey, if he's back and he actually is at Oklahoma next year, he could very well be a huge part of this. Why wouldn't he be if he was back? So got to keep that in mind too, but we'll see.
So switching over to the defense, and I'm sure this is going to be a much shorter conversation, but
you're just plugging holes here. You're just filling in. Yeah.
So where are the holes that you're going to go address right off the top?
Well, obviously linebacker. You're going to need a guy at least. And if Kip leaves, you need multiple. You might need multiple anyway. But I do think that let's for the sake of the conversation, say they do get Kip back. You need probably and I'm not saying that there's a bunch of just Kendall Daniels walking around in the portal, because there's not, but you need someone to kind of fill that void at Cheetah, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically, you bring in Samuel Masigo back, hopefully. And so you have that, and then you have some young guy. You have Nesta, you have Taylor Heim, who I know they like. You have Marcus James, who's a young guy. But you're going to need one at least, or maybe even two portal linebackers who are probably older, probably veteran dudes who can kind of you trust can step in and pick it up, right? I would think you probably need an edge. Not, you don't need to go crazy, but something. You're losing R. Mason. You're losing Marvin Jones. You still love what you have. You have Wine and Okoye and Adebore. Like you like your group there, but you probably could use a vet guy, kind of like they did with Marvin Jones last year. But that's about it. I mean, maybe a corner, but I mean, linebacker pretty clearly, I think, is the biggest need on defense.
Yeah, linebacker. I think you're looking for 2 starting caliber linebackers, regardless of if Kip comes back or not, because Kobe leaving, Owen Heineke likely to leave.
I'm assuming Heineke's not back. That's how I'm operating right now. Yeah.
And let's just call it what it is. Those were 2 starters. I mean, you had 3 starting linebackers who occupied 2 spots on the field. And if you're losing 2 out of the 3, and this is the other thing that I think people aren't talking about enough, is like Samuel Mosigo at times was one of those starters. And then it felt like things kind of tapered off maybe. And is Sammy a definite return type guy? And again, this is just working through possibilities and scenarios, but it's like, you can never just assume that any player is 100% back now.
Yeah.
And so, like, what happens if, I mean, Heineke, McKenzie, maybe Kip goes to the NFL, and maybe Sammy finds opportunity? I mean, you're starting from scratch at Brent's baby. And that's, again, hypothetical, but I think linebacker, regardless of Lewis coming back or not, I think you're absolutely looking for 2 guys you believe can play starting caliber snaps in this offense that relies so heavily on them. You mentioned Cheetah. I think Cheetah's really interesting because Kendall Daniels is just like such a, not only a big part of that defense, but a perfect fit. But you've got Reggie Powers coming back, and I think Reggie Powers is like the guy there next year.
I think that
Powers. I think that they have shown you that they want him to be the guy. Safety, like that trio that we have always talked about is coming back. Marion Robinson has always been someone that, as long as he's around, I think that he's going to play corner. What happens there? I think the fact that you're going to get your 2 starters back.
Yeah, corner. Big. I feel like corner, it really just comes down to how much you think. I mean, because you have Bowen and Guillory, and they like Devon Jordan had a great year. Jacoby Johnson. Like, I don't think it's a massive need. It's more just how ready do you think, like a Tristan Haynes or a Malik Hawkins, like are those guys good to help you next year if needed? Because odds are, let's call it like it is, guys are going to get hurt, right? I mean, injuries happen. Yeah. Gentry Williams, obviously, we don't know what's going on with him in terms of just health, and also, like, will he be back? That's another big question. I mean, on paper, I would obviously corner doesn't feel like a huge need, but you could talk me into like adding something there. Just again, and that's up to Oklahoma to decide if we get into a pinch, are we good with Hawkins, Haynes, that being kind of our backup plan? Jeremiah Newcomb floating around too. I don't know.
Yeah,
where he kind of falls into this, but do you have guys?
They played Devin Jordan a lot. It feels like they have corners that they like. And I would mention this too. If you'll remember, we did this song and dance in the spring portal window, and it was like,
they didn't add one. Like, what the heck? Yeah,
they did not. And so that's something to consider. I bring all of that up to say this. I think the defensive line is where my eyes go, because the more that I think about it, Josh, it's like, yes, you've got guys there, and they've recruited that position group incredibly well at both end and tackle. But like, think for a second about the caliber of player you're losing. Okay.
Sure.
And the leadership and the familiarity that you're losing, right? Like,
Grayson Halton's a big loss.
Dominic Williams is a huge loss.
Yeah.
Dominic Williams, as someone who is not going to be in the stat sheet, but is going to be a leader and a mentor and is going to play that nose tackle type role at a high level, like, both of those dudes at tackle are huge losses. And like, Stone and Jackson are going to be the guys. But like,
Marcus Strong and Trent Wilson, like, are they ready for that? That's another thing that OU has to figure out.
And what happens if one of those guys gets banged up? Like Jaden Jackson got banged up, and it affected them. And then you look at defensive end, it's like, yeah, they played well without R. Mason Thomas, Josh, but he's still R. Mason Thomas. Like, and then, you know how I feel about this player. Like, I thought at times Marvin Jones Jr. was a portal ad that they brought in
Mm-hmm.
And even if at the beginning they weren't necessarily all that like sold, I thought there were moments in this year where he was arguably one of the most underrated players on that defense. Like, they're losing some dudes, man. Like, they're losing some guys and veterans. And for a defensive line that not only likes to rotate a lot, but like this defensive line sets the tone for wins and losses.
No doubt.
Are they going to be aggressive there? And they have been in the past. Are they going to be aggressive there at a time where they're losing guys who directly impacted the outcomes of games? And I don't know, man. Like, the defensive line for me is what I'm going to be most interested in going into the portal, because they had kind of a core there for a little bit, and a lot of those guys are gone.
Sure.
And it's like, you don't necessarily need the head honcho types, but like, you gotta really figure out how convicted you are and like just backfilling gaps that were occupied by dominant players and great leaders too.
Yeah. Well, that's what made it so good this year, was just how deep they really were. Especially, I mean, D tackle, that was absurd. Okay. I mean, you're not gonna be able to replicate that probably. And you might stumble into it. I mean, with the way Todd Bates is developing guys and they're recruiting, like, you could at some point have another, but like on a yearly basis to have a group like that is not normal, right? I mean, so, you know, again, Marcus Strong, Trent Wilson, I really like Trent Wilson as a freshman. Marcus Strong, obviously one of those guys who we all kind of thought, like, man, most teams he would have a pretty big role, but he's stuck in this room that's just loaded. So, you know, could they add a D tackle there? That'd be pretty huge. And, you know, Taylor Wine, obviously having the year he had makes you feel a little better about edge. But yeah, you're losing Marvin Jones and R. Mason, who's awesome. I mean, he's one of the best players he's had in the BV era. He's right up at the top with anyone, you know. So it's gonna be interesting. Like I said, defensively, you're still bringing a lot back. Obviously, your safety room's in great shape. Your corner we just talked about. If you could get Kip back, that's huge. So it's not like you're freaking out, but you're like you said, there are some big guys that are moving on, and you have to replace them.
Let me quickly add here too. Do you remember when in fall camp, and this is going to be a quiet part out loud situation here, but I don't think it's something that any of us are really considering. You remember in fall camp when Miguel Chavis was made available to the media, and he openly said, like, yeah, like, these guys are getting called by everyone in the country.
Oh yeah.
Our defensive players are getting called by everyone in the country. You know, we just talk about this defense like, yeah, they were a dominant group. Everyone's going to be back.
Sure.
Hey, man, these are good football players that everybody wants. And like,
you already saw Kobe. I mean, that's not really one that we talked about a lot as being a portal guy. It was more of like maybe an NFL guy.
It is a very real thing that, like, they're going to have to work hard to keep this group.
They had to do it last year. I mean, Stone was in the portal and they had to get him out. Jaden Jackson, we know, got push from other people, other teams.
I'm telling you, man,
that's all going to happen again. Yeah.
I don't think anyone is talking about it right now, but hey, I'm sure a lot of people that are listening to the show are having a kind of a similar aha moment to us right now, where it's like, hey, man, like, yeah, we're talking about, and I don't want to name players, but like, think of a player that you're thinking, man, if they come back next year, they could really take a jump.
Sure.
That same thing might be being pitched to them by a different program. Like,
yeah, no doubt.
Interesting layer to this defense's outlook with
there's always some surprises, and we'll have to roll the punches when that happens. But it's going to be a good defense. Obviously, it's still in good shape, and we did this last year too, a little bit where we knew it was good last year, and we knew it had a chance to be good again. But it was like, man, no Stutzman, no Billy Bowman, no Ethan Downs. I mean, those were big losses, and they got better. Obviously, they were better this year, and so I'm not saying they're going to be better again next year, but it wouldn't shock me if they're just as good, and maybe they are better. I mean, I think that, and that's part of being a deep team on defense. They played a lot of guys all year, and like I said, there's a lot of, I mean, Peyton Bowen, Eli Bowen, with Stone and Jackson, like you go down Wine, like a lot of the big time dudes in this run are going to be back, and so presumably, so you're still in good shape, but definitely going to be some needs that they'll need to plug in, and we'll see. And I would think too, especially a linebacker, going back to that conversation, I would think Oklahoma's got a very good shot to get just about anyone in the portal. I mean, who wouldn't? If you're a top end linebacker who's serious about getting the NFL, Why would you not want to come play in this defense for that coach? Like, that seems like a no-brainer. I'm not saying they can just get whoever they want, but I would think they have a shot to get just about anyone. So that can make you feel a little better about the linebacker situation as well. So it's a lot. The portal has just begun. We will obviously, this will be a weekly thing, at least probably through January, maybe deeper. I don't know. We don't have a spring portal this year either. I'm curious how that changes things because teams, this is it. I mean, this is it. You have to, whatever you add, this is it. So it's going to be a busy next few weeks. We'll see what Oklahoma does. Certainly going to make some offensive additions, you would think. And then those NFL decisions we talked about earlier, Mateer, Sategna, Kip Lewis, those are going to heavily influence the way this all looks. And the quarterback situation, it gets very weird if John does. If he comes back, there is no conversation. It's open and shut. John's your guy. And it's just a matter of who's backing him up. Is it Hawkins? Is it Bo Bentley? With Neubauer, that's all, but we'll see, obviously. I think that's it for now. I think the rough plan next week, Tom and I, probably Tuesday, we'll catch up on some news and we'll set the table for SEC basketball, which is next weekend, which feels nice, getting the conference play for them. So we'll do that on Tuesday. Collin and I will probably circle back, I'm imagining, next Friday, which is the 2nd, which is the day the portal opens. And so I'm sure by then we'll have more portal stuff to talk about and maybe some specific names on some targets. I'm
gonna be covered in sweat. My hair is falling out. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. It's a lot, but it's it's kind of fun, but it's a lot at the same time. And so we'll be here with you every step of the way, though. And good stuff. We'll be back next week. Subscribe and be with us every day. We're on Sooners Illustrated.
Yeah. And so Merry Christmas to you and yours again. And if you're listening to us while you're driving or flying back from wherever you celebrated, and by the way, the two of us won't pod together until after the new year. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, be safe out there, safe travels, and celebrate responsibly, obviously, as we get through the back end of the holiday season. And before you know it, a lot more to celebrate theoretically, because that portal is going to hit like a truck.
Quickly, on the way out here, quick picks for the 4 quarterfinal games. We won't talk until they're over.
You hit me with your picks because I'm interested to see what you got.
Probably go Ohio State, Oregon. Could Alabama beat Indiana? I think maybe Alabama will win that.
I'm gonna take Indiana.
I'm guilty of not believing in Indiana just because of the name. Just because of the name. I'm fully guilty of that. I'll say Alabama will be upset there, and then in the nightcap, I'll take Georgia.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page in every game. I think I'm going to roll with Indiana because I'm a big Sig guy. I'm a Signetti.
Yeah, I do think Tech can beat Oregon. That's the game that's the most coin flippy to me. They're all good games, though. They're all good games.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
I think this is going to be fun, and I will definitely be glued to the television and my couch whenever it rolls around because shortly after that, it's go time.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's a lot of the G5 thing and all that. There's still some kinks to work out with the expanded playoff, but this is kind of what you envisioned. Like, it really feels like these 8 teams, all 8 could win the national championship. They're all really good, and we should have 4 great quarterfinal games. It's going to be fun. I'm excited to watch them. And we'll circle back on Friday, and we'll get into some portal talk, and maybe we'll give some thoughts on the games.
Still a little salty that we're not heading to Pasadena, but
we should be flying out on Monday to Pasadena, but
whatever.
We'll talk about portal instead.
I guess we got to celebrate the holidays with our families.
Yeah.
Gosh.
That's it for now. We'll be back next week. Like I said, Tom and I probably on Tuesday. Keep an eye for that. And then Collin and I will be back with you on Friday, which is the day the portal opens for a lot more portal talk. So be back with us then. That's it for now. For Collin Kennedy, I'm Josh Callaway signing off. See you next time right back here, as always, on Sooners Illustrated.